Hey. Welcome to Wager Talk in the Wager Talk studios and Wager Talk TV eventually, right? I'm your host, Tony Finn, and you are readying yourself for Fade It with Finn, a weekly op-ed on who I believe, with reason, to be profitable fades inside of the NFL schedule in specific weeks or specific Sundays. For the most part, we try to keep these to Sunday games simply because of the tapings, and we don't want you to be disappointed and tune in. And we've given you Thursday games, and you've tuned in on Saturday. So our last episode of Fade It with Finn found us earning a 2-0 mark, bringing our season record to 4-2. I've been, albeit early in the season, guys, an all or nothing fade it with blank host. You fill in the blank. 2-0 in week 1, 0-2. Week 2, 2-0 for the second time this season. Last week in week 3 of the National Football League. Before we get started, I must respond to my responsibilities of note. My college and my NFL cards for this weekend, week 4 for NFL, week 5 for college, are in full, up, live, available at this point of the weekend, at least. There may be some additions that won't affect anything if you choose so to purchase Finn. And you can find my page at Wager Talk. You probably already have at some point in time. So that said, everything's alive, available at Wager Talk, only at Wager Talk too. I have a Thursday night football run of 8-0, sides and totals dating back to last October, which will not make any difference because by the time you see this, it's going to be during the game, maybe even after the game. So that's it. But in conclusion, let me say, I dive into this weekend's commentary for those who are listening, watching, and giving valuable time to support Wager Talk team, and myself. We thank you. Anything you might be interested in reading, investing into that comes from my Wager Talk shelf, use coupon code TFIN50. That's TFINN50, TFIN50, and you'll receive 50% off anything Finn, everything Finn, TFIN50, only at Wager Talk, 50% off everything Finn. So let's jump in. Two fades, as we do every week. We're going to be fading first. Today's Broncos and the Patriots, and I've been told to do the Patriots first, but you know what? I'm going to do the Broncos first, just because I want to. Broncos offensive woes, guys, they're not going to turn into W's because of Russell Wilson alone. I don't think Russell Wilson. I've watched some film of Russell. There's been some collections, some collages of his work, of his throws that have been done by some beat writers that myself or my coworkers, the great Teddy Covers, have watched, and very interesting stuff. I don't know that even Russell would tell you that he is the Russell Wilson of 5 years ago, but I think the evidence proves that Russell Wilson can't be the Russell Wilson of 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. He can't, he can't put a team on his back and carry it with his legs if the throws aren't there or they're playing 2 deep safeties or a cover 3, cover 6, whatever the case may be. He can't do those things that he used to do. And this team, in truth, the way they're built up front, meaning they're built strong, steady, to push forward, not necessarily pass block, and they're built to run. It became really apparent, I think, in week 1, more so in week 2, and then last week as well. But the thing is that Hackett's new. He's new. He's a young head coach. He's already made several mistakes that have been publicized in great fashion, by the way, which always is and always will be for the National Football League. But again, Denver's built to run. They pretty much look dysfunctional the way they're operating right now. They're averaging just over 14 points a game. They have not scored more than 16 in any of their 3 games. Their average yards, and this is deception. And you'll hear me say this several times during the show, during the season, if you follow this every week, that yards per point are much more important. Yards per point, whether it be defensively or offensively, and that's just a fragment of the metrics that I use. But they're still much more important than just total yards, whether total yards defensively or total yards offensively. Denver's averaging 348 yards per game. They're in the bottom third of the league in yards per point. And in this situation, They're just not a very good matchup right now for a Raiders team that is desperate, by the way. Not that Denver's not desperate, but if the Broncos can't score 20 points, and I'm not certain they can against the Raiders, then they can't win. They can't cover. And the West, the AFC West, turns into, again, it could turn into a two-horse race, maybe even a one-horse race if the Chargers are hurting as bad as what we hear they are. So the Sunday night showdown, basically between San Francisco and Denver was a piece of work, if you want to ask me. I mean, it's not football as it's developed and engineered and advertised to be played right now. 17 punts, 2 fumble recoveries, a safety, 2 interceptions. It was a Friday night high school football game, and not a very good one. So at this point in time, Denver, until further notice, becomes a fade. They're a fade until Hackett can figure out a way to balance this offense, keep his receivers healthy, and be a threat. Basically, it's a good defensive team, guys. Good defensive team. But you can't be an elite defense unless your offense contributes. Fade the Denver Broncos this weekend and until further notice. And we would stop and we'll start a new video, right? With all this, we're going to go right into the second fade. And you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the New England Patriots. I know I'm supposed to be talking about the Broncos now. I'm not doing it. New England Patriots now. I'm joking. No, maybe not, but I'm certainly not joking about Mac Jones and the issues he's having at quarterback, the issues that the Patriots have had all season for the most part, the issues that you heard if you're a fan at all, the issues that you heard about in preseason football where Belichick had no control over the offense. Bill Belichick's in control. Don't let anybody fool you. He's in control of what he wants to be in control with, and if he's not, he can fake it better than anybody I know. And he's certainly not going to let you see him sweat. If you've seen him this year in the first 3 weeks in press conferences, you've seen a changed Belichick to some degree. He's much more tolerant of the media, much more loose-lipped. And I don't blame him because I don't believe this is going to be one of his better seasons. And I don't know whether this is going to be one of his seasons that leads him to deciding he too, like many other coaches, how about Peyton, that want change. I don't know that that's Belichick, but I know this much. This isn't a very good team. They're going to be a Belichick team. They're going to fight. They're going to scratch. They're going to claw. And if it comes down to him having to basically be the head coach, the offensive and defensive coordinator, that's what Bill Belichick will do. Think about this. Last weekend, season high 447 yards of total offense in a Sunday loss. In a loss, in the old days, 447 yards of Brady offense in the days of old were plenty to win, typically easily to win. That's just not what this team is. If they've had to play that much or they've had to engineer and game plan or scheme that much offense, they're probably not going to win. This is a team that's going to win low-scoring games. This team is going to have to go back to running the football. Mac Jones is hurt, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, in truth, before I say, listen, there's not much to talk about here. New England is also a fade. We have lost with New England as a fade in week 2, if you remember, against Pittsburgh, where they found a way to win, which is what they do against not very good Pittsburgh team. They win by 3. They were a fade. We didn't miss that by much, or it will be even a better season than we've had so far. So if you remember last week when you saw Peppers recover a Bateman fumble early in the 4th, this Patriots team seemed to appear to pull off the upset and send the Ravens to a heartbreaking loss, what they had done to Miami just the week before. It didn't happen. Why it didn't happen is because Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady, and this team doesn't have the talent around him to make those kind of things happen. At this point in time, New England has really they have exhausted most of what they can do through trades, most of what they can do through their current scheme with their current personnel. Mac Jones, even healthy, is not right. He's not completing intermediate passes to any degree at all, and it's all going to be short dumps and skunks. Anyone can do that under Belichick. So from here forward, if you're a fantasy freak and you like this team and you want to have some players from this team, it's going to be Damian Harris and it's going to be Stevenson. They're going to have to carry this offense for the most part. And a 2 running back set, isn't going to cut it in the NFL today. New England has issues turning the ball over. They have issues on the offensive line. Harrison Stevens are probably good enough to scratch and claw and 4 yards in a cloud of dust type of an offense. The Patriots they averaged 5.2 yards per carry on Sunday. They didn't turn the ball over, and they still lost to a pretty good Ravens team, to a pretty good Ravens quarterback who's having maybe his career year. Fade the New England Patriots this weekend. First fade being the Denver Broncos. The second one, New England Patriots. I expect to see you guys next week. Be 2-0. Thanks to all who took some time to listen into Faded with Finn, and thanks to Sir Chris Allen, producer, director, everything. See you next week.